All right, welcome back to the web series. This is the interview portion, and today we're going to be talking corporate finance with Dan. Dan, thank you so much for joining
Woo!
us.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So let's jump on in. So one of the first things I like to do is give our audience a little bit of knowledge about who you are and also why you chose corporate finance.
Yeah. So a little bit about me. I grew up in Texas and spent most of my time there doing tech consulting work. Really enjoyed what I did. However, I wanted to get off the road, and through some of my work in consulting, realized that I really enjoyed the financial aspects of business. And so use those two things to come back here at Emory and learn a lot about finance, and knew that I specifically wanted to work within corporate finance. And that led me to look for corporate finance roles. So.
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit more about corporate finance. So at a high level, what is I guess this is kind of different because it's a function within a broad industry. What does that look like? And if you can break it down for us.
Yeah, so corporate finance means a lot of things to a lot of different people, but at a high level, I like to break it down, at least for grad students in an MBA program, in two categories. So the first category is what I'm going to call kind of like a general management or a LDP or leadership development program type role. Those are the ones where you're going to be in a finance role, but you may get rotated around to different areas and divisions of finance or different business units. You'll see a lot of these typically as you come to grad school. As an example, here at Emory, I know that Coca-Cola and Delta typically recruit for financial LDPs. And then the second bucket that a lot of grad students gravitate towards is what I'm going to call corporate development. So typically the students who either have done investment banking in the past or want to do investment banking style work, but without those hours. And so they look to internal M&A or corporate development roles within companies. Typically, those two things combined make up what most people think of corporate finance general roles within a company.
Awesome. And to touch a little bit on the LDP portion, because that's not something we've talked about, you generally get to pick multiple rotations over a period of time. Can you jump into that a little bit more, explain what that might look like?
Yeah. So I'll use my job as an example. So within my company, I have 3 rotations. They're each a year long, and they specifically require that I move to different business units and different job functions every rotation. So I'll be seeing either a different area of the business or a different area of finance, and trying to get a better understanding of what I like and what I don't like within those areas, as well as developing further skill sets. Most companies will also work with you to select preferences in terms of the areas you want to work in the business units. And I've always found, at least through discussions with companies, that they're pretty willing to staff you where you want to be.
Yeah, and I think there's 2 types of companies in that. Some of them you would stay in the same location and just cycle through departments, and then in your situation, geographically, you would change. And at the end of those 3 years, from what I understand, you get to kind of pick or choose which department you want to be in.
Yeah. So, I'll still have to technically interview, but the thought is by that point, I at least have enough contacts and have met enough people to know where I can land. That seems to be pretty consistent. You also brought up a great point. Depending on the company and what their geographical reach is, they may or may not require you to relocate for the various roles. So like you said, you're correct. I do have to relocate. Some people, for instance, I know here in Atlanta at Coca-Cola, I don't believe they have to geolocate each time, just because Coca-Cola is mainly headquartered here. But a lot of it just depends on the company.
All right, Dan. Yeah, that's great. Let's talk a little bit about your summer experience to give people a better perspective of what that role might look like.
Yeah, so just as a quick reference, so the company I was talking about earlier is AT&T, so I'm in their FLDP program, and I interned there last summer as well. So going back to talking about geolocating, I was specifically within their New York office this summer. I moved up there for the summer to work in their advertising unit. And so as what I would consider to be a fairly typical role within corporate finance, a lot of the work I was doing over the summer was variance analysis. And if you take managerial accounting here at Emory in the spring, you'll learn a lot about that.